this season just keeps going so off on so many tangents and so many possibilities, especially for teams like Nottingham Forest. I have to segue into that one, mate. Their win against Villa was euphoric for them, for obviously reasons we'll talk about later, but the nature of the late goal meant that them being propelled into the top four was even more satisfying. Let's talk about the flashpoints. Now, Elliot Anderson had a pretty big part to play in this game, didn't he? Fair to say. Flashpoint number one. Talk me through the penalty that wasn't a penalty, that wasn't given, and the holding back of, was it Morgan Rogers, wasn't it, in the box? Started off just outside the box, continued for what felt like a little while. Rogers goes down, nothing's given. What's the take on this? Why wasn't it given officially?
Okay, let me just clarify something before I do this, because I've had constant debates with Forest fans for the last week, over the last couple of days, and I think it's important to say, I don't agree with the way that these decisions are made that we're going to talk about. I do think Forest deserve to win this game, and do not begrudge them the win because ultimately they were the better team, particularly late on. Fine. My issue is with the refereeing, of course, and the consistency that it's applied. So the Rogers one. VAR have stated in the match that the reason they didn't give it was because it didn't impact the attacker and wasn't...
It went down.
It wasn't sustained for long enough to have an impact on him.
Okay.
Now, that's nonsense. You can see how tight of a grip Anderson has on Rogers and clearly pulls him down. Rogers probably does make the most of the fall, which maybe doesn't help his case for it, but ultimately it is a foul. Had VAR said, we're not going to give this penalty because Rogers fouls Anderson first, not one Villa fan argues with that. He does foul him. He has such a tight grip of like the neck of Anderson's shirt that it's obviously a foul. So I'm not annoyed that the penalty wasn't given. I agree that it should not have been a penalty because of that. I just find VAR and the refereeing standards so frustrating because they don't seem to be able to apply their own rules to the game, and that's where fans get frustrated, and that's why it opens this debate up. Because if you look at that incident isolated, it's a penalty. Of course it is.
Well, that's the only replays you see, is that moment. But fair play for sort of admitting a bit of balance there that, okay, the whole movement, the whole motion, the whole tussle and coming together was fairly kind of like bit of this and bit of that, 50-50, pretty even. But for the refs to focus on that is the reason feels a bit ludicrous because that was blatantly not true. And then the winner itself, obviously the timing of it is really important. So the ref has to get this right. But Anderson's challenge, should we call it, what do you make of that before the goal actually gets given, before the cross goes in, before the goal? Is it a challenge? Is it a foul? What are the arguments against it being a foul? And what are your thoughts, dare I ask?
This is, again, where you can see how unfit for purpose VAR and the standard of refereeing in the Premier League are right now, because this shouldn't be a debate. I can't believe we're even having to talk about this, because it's a foul.
Well, it kind of hacks Cash, basically, doesn't it?
It's so clear. Honestly, I found myself going mentally even arguing this with Forest fans, because take your club out of it for 5 seconds. You cannot look at it and say that it's not a foul. I've seen Cash was looking for the contact. Anderson wins the ball. He doesn't. I've slowed it down. You can look on my blue sky. I've slowed down and showed you the footage, and you can see the stills where he clearly makes no contact with the ball until he's thrown Cash over. He comes through the back of him or to the side of him slightly, pushes one side down and puts his leg round him and pushes him over it. It's a bit like when you're at school and one of your mates goes on all fours behind another kid and you push him and he goes over it. That's the sort of mechanism he's got on Cash.
Yeah, there's no way Cash can stay on his feet after that. And I think that's the measure of it being a foul, in my opinion. And obviously what follows is a deathly blow for Villa. Like, it kills the game. It's the winner, and there's no time to recover from it. So I think with that in mind, it has to be looked at VAR, and it has to be looked at with some real scrutiny. I don't think that was the case.
No, of course it wasn't, because you look at that once as a referee and you go, oh no, that was a foul. Because you can see it. Anderson steps over the ball. He doesn't touch the ball. You can see it. I slowed it down and showed people. You see the spin of the ball and the direction it's going in. It does not change. And if there's any contact on it, it changes. But it doesn't. The only time it changes is after Cash has gone down, his leg falls on top of the ball. Still not Anderson. And that stops the ball still. and then Anderson takes it and puts the ball in for the winner. It's so clearly, I felt, and the problem is, again, Forest probably did deserve the win on the basis of the game, but they didn't deserve that goal, and it's pushed Forest into the top four, taken a point off Villa, and ultimately that can be incredibly costly. It levels out across the course of a season. There's definitely decisions that we'll get that we probably shouldn't across this season. But isn't that the problem? Shouldn't we just look at this and go, yeah, they're getting this right 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100? And actually, it feels like we're closer to 6 times out of 10. It's so poor. I just thought it was ridiculous.
Okay, that incident, well, those incidents aside, not that you could just put them aside and talk about it without mentioning them, but where it leaves Villa in the table, obviously in 6th now, and I think, 3 points outside the top 4, which is now Forest position. How are you feeling about the season? It feels like it's a season to not panic in any situation right now. There's plenty of football to play and not enough points, not enough daylight, I think, between any teams to kind of go, yeah, top 4's out of the question.
If you'd said to me in mid-December we would look like we're going to qualify automatically in the Champions League and not have to go through the playoff round, and we would be 2 points behind Man City, I'd be telling you that's an excellent start to the season. So I'll take it as that.